Okay, we're recording. 1, 2, 3, and record. Okay, welcome back. My name's Greg, Soul Searching Gaijin. This is the day after my first live show in Japan. It was pretty cool. I had a really good time. So in this video, I would say first of all, this video is for somebody who wants to perform live, who hasn't done it before. I'm going to show you what I used, what worked, what didn't work, what were the issues that I had, the thought process, what I gained from it, mind, body, and soul, and just reasons why, I think you should really try it, man. Give it a chance. Don't be afraid. So it's going to be a bit of a long one, and I'm going to go over as much as possible. So if you're into it, settle in, because I'll try to put as much value in this as possible. It definitely, I wish I had known all of this before yesterday. All right, so a little bit of history with this. For about 4 months, I've been doing this whole YouTube thing, doing live performances in my studio, which is one thing. It's great. Most of the pieces I'm doing are I'm not transitioning into anything. I'm not doing a whole set. I'm just doing one piece at a time. So I pretty much understand where I'm going to go with it, even though there's still a lot of improvisation involved because I don't structure everything out perfectly. I kind of rely on a little bit of intuition as to when to bring things in and out. So sometimes things are a little bit more fluid than others. And I try to keep it relatively simple so I don't get lost. In this show, happens about a month sooner than I was anticipating. I have a show lined up for November 9th, and I was at a music showcase a couple days ago and was offered to fill in for a band that just bailed. So I had a little over 24 hours to prepare, and even though my rig was set up, I didn't have my live set together at all. At all. So the very next day, I woke up and I just frantically made some music. And essentially, I just put a bunch of... I had one piece that I had done earlier on YouTube, and I had imported all the elements of that in here, but it was done on different equipment, and everything now was coming from one box, and a lot of the options I had when I recorded that I don't have in this setup. So that had to be done completely differently, and I had no practicing on that. That was just, I got the elements in there, boom. So then I did two more patterns, and I kept them at the same BPM so I could transition really easy. And I kept everything in one key, A minor, which I use a lot, just to keep things real simple. I wanted to take as much stress out of things as possible. I made some notes, very important to make notes that kind of let me know what was on what track, on what pattern, what the BPM were, and my little cryptic little lines and circles and stars is what comes in first, what comes in second, third, fourth, whatever, and how I can kind of transition. That helped a lot, but what really hurt me was the fact that I needed this. I needed a flashlight. Burr, burr, burr. I couldn't see anything. It was dark in there. My eyes are not the best. I really should be wearing glasses all the time. And I had a very difficult time. So another thing that also made it tricky, and we'll show you the live set now. We'll kind of go over that. See if I can get this in here nice and tight. Whoa, I'm so professional, aren't I? Oh my God. Okay, let's go down a little bit. There you go. And there, Tara. Okay, so this thing saved my life. Mini Freak. I used to, as you can see in my old videos, I was using an Arturia KeyStep, which is great. Doesn't have any sounds on it. I was having some problems with this setup, as you can see over here, which you maybe, I gotta go up a little higher. There you go. I incorporated my iPad. I have Cubasis It's a DAW, so I'm no longer cannot say I'm DAW-less. I am going hybrid. But if you look in here, this was my file for the whole show. There are no patterns in here. I'm not using this as a traditional DAW. Essentially, what I'm using it for is, it's my sound module. On each one of these tracks, I have a different sound mapped to my fader Fox over here. So actually, I'm going to put headphones on, we'll make some noise. So if I hit something, this is my track 1 over here. Then I'm down here on the piano. I don't need to tap this every time. Have another little plucky sound. Have a pad over here. Another lo-fi piano. And then another nice pad over here. And then also, here on 7, I have an instance of Loopy Pro, which is really amazing. And all I'm doing, this is not running in sync with my program. I just trigger this, have it playing in the background on a track, and that's just giving me sound effects. At some point, I'm going to map it to a MIDI controller so I can bring in different things. But right now, it's just playing everything all at once. Okay, so let's get that out of there. And I can bring that up, turn it, as I want, as it's playing. And it runs free of whether I have sequence going or not. Once I hit play on this at the beginning of the show, it just is going to play the whole time, which is great. Just gives me something, part of me, to fall back on. Okay, so now in this rig, aside from this, now you know what I'm doing with that. I also have this set up mapped to the Korg Nano controller over here. So I have 2 MIDI controllers controlling this guy. This one, on some of these knobs up here, I have effects sends and mix and stuff like that, some filters, blah, 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 but they're all corresponding to 1 over here, this is 1, that's mapped to something. 2 over here, this is going to 2, mapped to something. But over on this guy, the Nano controller, what I have is, let's see how this works. If you look up here, if I hit record, boom, that record enables track 1, turns it on and off, 2 on and off, 3 on and off. I can mute tracks on and off. So what this is allowing me to do, you see I have a loop, a permanent loop. So when I hit play, it's always going to loop these 4 measures, right? So I can essentially just arm track 1, hit record, and it recorded, but my volume was down. Okay, so let's hit record again. So, of course, Loopy Pro was on. This is why I did not do this on stage, because I don't have it worked out. But here we go, we got a live loop going, right? And now I can come on to track 2, which is my piano. Oh, but I can't turn down. Okay, so this is where I still have some issues. Let's hit stop. If I bring up my piano right now, it's also playing my flute. So I can actually capture something on here. Now it's just playing the piano, okay? Because I only recorded on the piano track. I have to figure out how I can... So the thing that I don't want to do, the way I have it hooked up right now is no matter what track I play, they all pop up really easily. I don't have to flip through MIDI channels. I can just play and bring up my volume. The same MIDI channel is going to all my sounds. That's Makes it really easy in that sense, but I haven't figured out how I'm going to incorporate that with the whole live looping because of that issue. Once I stack up a bunch of tracks, I don't want to be playing every sound the first time I put a loop in. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but we're getting there. But as I said, I have not incorporated the live looping element yet. What has been very helpful is just having these sounds right here. So I did I go all over the place. Back to this guy, the Mini Freak. One thing that you should never do is buy a keyboard that has all black keys, because when you're in a dark club, that gets really confusing. I thought it looked cool. I was like, oh, they have a one with all black keys. Yeah, I'll take that one. That looks cool. Everything's black. It'll be cool aesthetically. Stupid, stupid move. And I learned that really quickly. So I think I'm going to end up putting some type of like glow-in-the-dark tape on all the sharp and flat notes up here. I need some way to tell a difference, because like I said, my eyes aren't great, and without proper lighting, it was very tricky. If I wasn't in the key of A minor and knew I didn't need to go up here, I could have very easily thought I was over here and been over here or over there. A little tricky, all right? So think about that. Don't go for aesthetics, go for function over aesthetics all the time. Okay, so then also, the way I have things rooted. Digitact is the source of everything for this set. I have 3 patterns in here, that's all I had. I had most of the banks filled up. I was muting and unmuting elements and creating a structure that way. In the future, given enough time, I will create multiple patterns for one section. The thing I got stuck on letting certain elements play for too long as I was thinking of what is the next place to go. I think what is much easier is if I don't create the whole song, but basically give like each song or section a good 4, maybe 5 patterns. So I have an intro pattern, I can kind of do my thing when I feel like I've played that out and I need to make a change without freaking out and bringing in a whole bunch of things or taking out a whole bunch of things. While I'm playing, I can really quickly just flip to, boom, go to a new pattern, and then the next cycle, I'm already going to be in the flow of the next thing. It takes a little bit of the guesswork out of it. Like I said, I don't want to structure the songs completely in that sense. I still want to be able to kind of go with the flow, mute things, unmute things, but I did realize that it is really important to have as much pre-thought out and pre-done as possible. You can always kind of adjust and improv on the fly, but it is really tricky when you have one pattern and you're trying to figure out how to make all those variations, and you have to do all this maneuvering while you're trying to play, because you know I would come over here and I'd get lost for a couple seconds trying to think about things, and then there would be these awkward moments of just like, wait a minute, that went 4 measures longer than it needed to go. It'll just allow me to flow smoother if I have a few patterns. So there you go. That's how I'm going to do that in the future. The way I have this whole box routed over here, however, all my sounds from the computer, which is the majority of them. It's coming out through a sound card, which I have hidden under here. It's a Motu 4 in, 4 out. So out 1 and 2, whatever, I guess. Well, no, actually out 3 and 4 comes into the mood pedal over here, which I can engage or disengage. A groan drone pedal, which I can, same thing. It's really nice. It's got an instance of clouds in it. Can you even, oh, there you go. That's why we're not hearing it, because nothing's turned up. So I can do all kinds of crazy things. It's pretty neat what it does, and I mean, that's just scratching the surface. I can create clicky sounds, drony sounds, tune things up and down. So sound flows into here, and then into the Cosmos looper pedal, which I was using extensively. I had it on record almost the whole show, and it was slowly getting rid of things, very slowly, that I was adding into. But anything that's in this computer, any of these sounds on the Fader Fox, if this is recording, is going right through here. The outputs of this are going to the inputs of my Digitact. And then Digitact is going into the computer. So the computer's coming out, going through all this into here and back into itself. Surprisingly, I'm not having phasing issues, which is really, I'm not sure why, but it's pretty awesome. And then my other inputs are shared by these two machines here, the Mini Freak and the Terra Soma. Soma Terra. Yeah, this guy and oh, okay, so what we're hearing is the Cosmos looping endlessly. Let's turn that off. Whew, lots of things to think about when you're on stage here, but this is about the simplest setup I think that I've come up with in all my different iterations. So these two are actually sharing an input. I have a splitter jack in the back. So basically, like, left and left are going into this little splitter jack, and that's my left. So I got basically four 1/4-inch plugs going into two inputs through a splitter. That's really nice because at the same time, the way I have that routed is they're also coming back through this whole effects chain and going in. So I can do the same thing with them. And like, once again, for some reason, I'm not getting any phasing, which I thought I would, but it's beautiful that I'm not. So I'm just kind of going with it. So that's been really awesome for me. So now this is my live looper. This is my control. I mean, everything's great. Issues that I did have on stage is I was getting, probably because of all my crazy back and forth and and the fact that I have all of these triggered at any one time with can kind of make a big wall of sound. My MIDI was getting stuck, and has happened from time to time. So I would have to come over here and hit my all notes off button to stop something. It was really only kind of happening on 1 or 2 tracks, and I'm not sure what's up with that yet. But the thing that I learned is when I do that and my sequence is running, if I hit all notes off, boom, it stops my sequence. So luckily, that happened to me while in the very beginning of the show when I was just doing some ambient stuff and I hadn't started the computer yet. So I was just, basically there was no tempo. Everything was just kind of feeding into the looper and building up an ambience before I actually hit start and then started to unmute some things over here. So I kind of got lucky. And what I was going to plan on doing, since I knew that was going to be an issue, normally only one track gets stuck, so I can just turn that track down and then play with my other ones. This is not a perfect setup yet. Like I said, I haven't had this long enough to figure out all the kinks. So I had to kind of go through it a bit on stage, and that did freak me out a little bit. So I think you kind of see how the whole routing of everything goes. Then I just have stereo outs going to the front of house. So the other thing that I learned was, this was the first time in almost 20 years that I have heard anything that I've done on speakers. I use these guys for everything, or some version of these, but these are Beyerdynamic DT770 Pro, really good headphones. I'm very comfortable mixing with them. All the music that I do is on them. So for the first time at this show, I'm in a room with big sub, huge sound system, and everything sounded totally crazy and blown out. And I was like, wow. Luckily, I got to the show early. Another lesson, get there early. The owner was nice enough to, he's like, yeah, just go up. Nobody's up there. You can make all the noise you want. You're not going to bother me. So for about a half hour, I got to do this long extended sound check and actually kind of do like a quick run through of the set, which was almost exactly 30 minutes. But I didn't play through the whole thing, but I would just kind of cycle through some stuff just to try to familiarize myself. And as things popped up, certain sounds, I needed to put EQs on a bunch of these sounds in the computer and take the bottom out. It was just getting too boomy and kind of crazy and just like a big muddy mess. So to clear things up, I kind of did a little bit of EQing, and all that happened in the show beforehand. If I would have just gone up on stage, had 5 minutes to plug in, played a couple sounds, I probably would have totally bombed, man. I needed that time just to even feel comfortable and confident. Just hearing things that loud, it was really an adjustment. If you haven't heard your music through a loud sound system, it was beautiful and shocking, and it took me a minute to get used to. So, also, during the live set, as I said, there was a lot of improvisation involved since I didn't have time to prep so much. You just have to keep going when things go wrong. I've seen a lot of shows I don't know if I said this before, but I've seen a lot of shows in the past few months, and no matter how good the performer is, there's always something that goes wrong. And the audience doesn't really care, man. They're digging what you're doing, and as long as you don't freak out and you handle it gracefully, I never held any of that against anybody, man. I'm just like, dude, oh shit, that sucks, you know? But oh, dude, he killed it. You didn't miss a beat. He just like kept going. And that's the thing. You just kind of have to keep going. You have to kind of handle your nerves. I wasn't super nervous, but I did have moments where I was a little lost, and I started to kind of, I don't even want to say freak out, but I was like, dude, you need to move on to something else. You've been on this for way too long. You need to figure it out. And just having that thought took me out of the flow. So then that added an extra 4 measures while I was trying to figure out my next move. So I would say make it as easy as you can on yourself. Don't think that you're going to don't make it complicated, man. I mean, you can make it complicated in your studio, but when you're on stage, I would say make it everything as easy as possible. Definitely have little things to fall back on in case, God forbid, something crazy happens. I mean, I turned down the volume on my Digitakt, not realizing that, oh yeah, the Cosmos, which is giving me, why are you going crazy over here? The Cosmos, which was giving me my bed to fall back on, is going into the Digitakt. So as I'm turning the volume down here, because I wanted to fade in a pattern, fade in drums a bunch at a time, not just one track at a time. I wanted to just do it on my volume knob. As soon as I grab this and turn it down, my whole set just went zoom. I'm like, oh my God, you can't touch that knob. Lots of mistakes. But at the same time, what was really beautiful was everybody was digging it. It was really nice. There wasn't a lot of people there, but after the show, a bunch of people came up to me and said the nicest things. It was just really, it made it all worthwhile, and none of the mistakes even mattered. And I got a lot of connections. I got more gigs from doing that one gig, and I have more subscribers, more people following, more inspiration, more relationships. And that's been the best thing for me, really. Like, just putting myself out there, putting yourself out there, it's going to open doors which you weren't expecting. And yeah, it's just been, it's been a learning process the whole way. There's a lot of, like I said, when you make mistakes, you don't really feel great about yourself, but facing that fear, you do feel pretty good. You gain some confidence, man. And just getting through it and being like, dude, I'm going to do better next time. Forgiving yourself for like not being perfect. It's okay. That's really what this whole process has taught me. It's just like self-acceptance. So I think that's about it, man. There's going to be more to come. I hope this was valuable and was not me talking forever aimlessly, because I do that. You know I do that. So, all right. I guess I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Hope you got something out of this. Have a good day.